My word. I cannot believe that there's a company, a business, a platform that's actually earned the privilege to get 200 senior marketers from companies like Telstra, Optus, GM, IBM, Microsoft, all in the same room on a Thursday afternoon when you guys are so busy. So thank you so much for coming. It's just a privilege to be here. I hadn't got this story to tell you last week. It's just really fresh, so you're the first people to hear this story. But I've got my own LinkedIn connection kind of story. You know those scary stories you get on LinkedIn with a connection thing that you think, oh, I'm not sure about this connection. So last week I had a connection request and jumped on there, and it was a connection request from my son. And you know that you're of getting to a certain age when you get a LinkedIn connection request from your son. When he's graduated from Facebook and Snapchat to LinkedIn, you think this, you know, now he's getting serious about life. He's a professional. He's wanting to do something with his life. So I think what the LinkedIn team are doing is building something for the ages, and I'm just thrilled to be here to speak to you. So the premise is that the person at the front of the room with the clicker in their hand is here to persuade you of something. They're usually here to convince you about their idea. Well, I'm actually not here to do that today. I'm here to remind you of something that I believe you already know in your heart, and to show you why that's really important to you and to your customers. So there's a reason for the pants. There's a connection to the slide and to a story. My very first job was actually for a company called Tesco. 30 years ago, they opened a flagship store in Dublin. And I got a Saturday job when I was 16 working for those guys in the stock control department. So every Saturday, I went with my clipboard and my pen and crawled all over the warehouse, all over the pallets, over tins of Campbell's soup and tins of beans, and every single tin had to be accounted for. Then at the end of the day, you go into the store and you start counting the tins that were there, which was kind of a crazy thing to be doing, because as you're counting them, the little old lady's loading them into her shopping cart, and you think, oh, I'm wrong already. But anyhow, this was as accurate as we could be at that time. And what was really struck me as interesting at that point was, here we had a department that was all about data. That was as sophisticated as we got there. There was a department for HR. There were people there to provide us with clipboards and pens and uniforms. There were people who were shelf stacking. There were lots of people out to process customers through the checkouts. There was one person there to give refunds, but there was no department that was actually responsible for seeing the customers. I mean, you might say we were all responsible for seeing those people and understanding them, but we weren't really. We all had other jobs to do, more important jobs. There was nobody there to see that little old lady who couldn't reach the high shelf. There was nobody there to see the mom who was totting up the price of her groceries before she got to the checkout in case she just didn't have enough to buy them. So I think that was probably one of my first lessons about marketing, that when I was in that job, I realized that we weren't really treating people as well as we could do. So we spent $500 billion on advertising last year. We're still spending more money to interrupt more people about things they don't care about and don't even pay attention to. Just a show of hands, how many people, don't be embarrassed, have clicked on a banner ad in the last week? Anybody? Okay, not very many. And were they accidental or was it on purpose? Because whenever I click on a banner ad, it's usually an accident and I feel like a total idiot. It turns out that you're more likely to, in percentage terms, to summit Mount Everest than to click on a banner ad out of context. We're advertising, we're marketing to people. And what are we doing? We're actually trying to convince them to do things that we wouldn't do ourselves. Most of the people in this room wouldn't dream of clicking on a banner ad out of context. So why do we do that? Well, it turns out that we're actually afraid of being invisible. Because if we're invisible as a brand or a company, what happens is that a graph like this might show up on our watch. And nobody wants that, not a single one of us. Or worse still, something like this might happen. I mean, this is really deadly. Not one of us wants that to happen. We dream of this. And depending on where your head is this Thursday afternoon, you're either thinking gorgeous legs or hockey sticks. But I reckon most people here are thinking hockey sticks. Making this happen has all kinds of implications for us and personally, not just for our businesses, because when we make this happen, if we can get this kind of hockey stick growth happening, then we can get promoted. We can get a bigger salary. We can move to a better suburb. Our kids can go to a better school. So this kind of stuff is really important to us. We like to think we can control and manipulate growth with traditional marketing. That's the thinking. That's what we've been taught. That's what we learned at business school. Now, if I said to you, this is a company performance in the last few years. So the low point is 2005, and then the growth there is 2010. Could you give a guess at what company it was? Any guesses? Don't be shy. Apple is a really good guess. About 90% of people guess Apple. That's a tremendous guess. It's actually sales of nuts. And I just want to talk about this for a second. So almond sales have actually grown 220% in the past, in those 5 years between 2005 and 2010. So what was happening there? What was going on? I mean, almonds didn't change. They didn't suddenly taste better. They didn't look any better. But the whole narrative around, the popular health narrative around what almonds were and what they meant totally changed. Fat wasn't a bad thing. People decided that almonds were a protein-packed snack. So when our worldview changes, when people's worldview changes, that's what actually drives growth. So we're not actually, I don't believe that we can control that kind of growth with traditional marketing efforts, however we'd love to believe that. And here's the nub of why we advertise. None of us wants to be the peanut. Did you see the peanut sales there? It's not a good time to be a peanut in America. It's a great time to be an almond farmer in California, but it's not a great time to be a peanut. So nobody wants to be this. We confuse awareness with impact. We're really guilty of that. We think if people see us, then that's all we've got to do. This picture was taken in 1955. So 89% of the companies that were on the Fortune 500 list in 1955 are not around anymore. And yet, we're still using the marketing model that we used back then. Everybody in this room probably recognizes this. It's the marketing mix. So the marketing mix consists of 4 Ps. We decide what we're going to sell, so we've got our product. We decide what price we can sell it at. Then we decide where we're going to sell it, and then enter Donald Draper with a cute tagline to save the day and promote the heck out of it. And just as a matter of interest, does anybody know the Campbell's soup tagline? No, I bet you don't, but there's a couple of taglines. There's one they've been using since 1935, which is good. And the other one is the power of soup. So, I'm not sure that's selling any more soup. In fact, soup sales are going down. There's a P that marketing's forgot, though, and that P is people. We think that advertising and awareness are shortcuts to matching to our customers. And here's the thing, I think we've actually forgotten those people. I think we've forgotten our customers. So marketing actually is not a department. It's the story of how you create difference for those people that you serve. Now, we've all got brands that do that for us, and it might be your favorite brand of running shoe or your favorite cafe. One brand that does that for me is Uber. How many people know about Uber? How many people don't know about Uber and have never used it ever? There's not one single person in this room who's never used Uber? Just one. Do you know that it's an iPhone app? Yeah, so it's an iPhone app that connects drivers with riders who want to ride. Who likes it? Who would use it again? Love it? So the great thing about Uber is that you don't have to wait. You don't have to guess. You know that your driver is arriving. So when I decided to begin a love affair with Uber was coming out of the terminal at Sydney Airport on a Friday. Think you've scored. You get off your flight 10 minutes early. You walk out of arrivals, and there's a 45-minute taxi line, and your heart sinks. So the last time I arrived here, I thought, right, I'm just not doing that anymore. So before the cabin crew could turn off, could open the doors and let us up the air bridge, I had an Uber on the way to me. And I waltzed out in front of that taxi line and thought, that's it, I'm never going back. So let me just show you some stats. Uber has gone from 0 to a $17 billion valuation in just 4 years. In 45 countries, it's probably 46 since I made this slide, which was last week. 205 cities. They reckon they're creating 20,000 jobs per month, and that valuation of $17 billion. I mean, that's impossible. How does a company do that in 4 years? They don't employ any of the drivers, and they don't own a single car. So how do they do it? Well, actually, they did it one person at a time. When they started in San Francisco, Travis Kalanick tells this funny story about they started with a group of friends. They say they just wanted to be baller in San Francisco. I had to look that up because I didn't know what that meant. But they just wanted to be cool guys and turn up in their black car. So, you know, one person at a time. And why does Uber work? Because it makes you feel good. It makes you feel certain, and you like to tell your friends about it. You know, look at this, how cool it is. I couldn't wait to tell my friends, look, the car's coming. So they did this by standing in our shoes, by being right there with us when we walk out of the airport arrivals and we see that 45-minute line. They did it by being right there with us in Manhattan when we're trying to hail a yellow cab in the pouring rain. They did it by being right there with us in San Francisco on New Year's Eve when we're really never going to get that cab. We're trying to look for a cab that's never going to arrive. And they did it by understanding that empathy is one of our most valuable resources. You know, we live in the connection economy now, and I don't know what you were doing or your CEO was doing last New Year's Eve, but I know what the Uber CEO was doing. This is Travis Kalanick's Twitter, and he was actually on Twitter, one click away, one tweet away from his customers, answering their questions, fielding any problems. And I think that's really important. I think that's a real sign of great leadership. So it turns out that we succeed when we matter to people. It's no good making a product or a service if nobody cares about it. It doesn't matter how good our idea is if nobody cares. We think that marketing is all about features and benefits of our product, explaining that if only we could tell our customers how good our product is, they would just fall in love with it. When actually marketing is giving people something to talk about. I mean, no brand has done that better than Apple, as we know. All the fuss this last week, and we can't even get our hands on the products, and we're still just dying to talk about them. What Apple worked out, which was really interesting, is that we forget that it's so ubiquitous now, Apple products, we forget that it's not very long ago that the iPod didn't exist. I love the story that Ron Johnson, the VP of retail for Apple, when the stores opened, tells. He said, when we opened the stores in 2001, there was no iPod, there was actually no iPod, no iPhone, and most people didn't own a Mac. In fact, 97% of people were on dial-up in America when the first store opened. I had no idea. And he said what happened was we created a place where people wanted to be, not where they were coming to buy. And we were really happy to do that because we were playing the long game. We realized that mind share comes before market share. And I like to say heart share becomes before market share. It wasn't just that we knew about Apple, it's just we kind of went into this love affair with them. And they're not for everybody. I know their products are not for everybody, but they're for enough people to make them the best and the fastest growing company in the world. So using the typical marketing mix model, here's what we do. This is how we sort of launch, develop, market a product. We take the idea, so we've got our product. We develop it in some way. We get it to the sophistication where it's ready for the market. Then we launch it, and then we tack the marketing on at the end. I mean, you guys know that you're probably not there at the idea stage. You're actually there at the end to tell the customers about the product. And we're trying to convince people with facts and features and benefits. We're trying to give them these reasoned, logical arguments why they should buy our products. And it turns out that 95% of our decisions are subconscious, so we don't make decisions that way. So we're approaching it in the wrong way. Because people don't buy what we make, serve, or sell. They buy how that thing makes them feel. You know, I've got a short story about when my husband and I bought our house, our family home of the moment. We actually bought it before we even went inside the home open. So we stood there on the welcome mat. We looked at the ocean view in the distance, way in the distance, and looked back at each other. And we made $1 million decision there just in a split second. And we all do that kind of thing every day. Because if we didn't, we wouldn't be driving the cars that we're driving. There are a lot of Porsches around Sydney, I notice. There's so many Porsches around Sydney. It's kind of not a practical car, is it? But you know, we buy those things because of the feeling that they give us. Now, neuroscientist Jill Bolte-Taylor pointed out a really important thing. We like to think that we're thinking creatures who feel, when actually we're feeling creatures who think. We're more like these guys than we like to believe. If you want to see how emotions play a part in decision-making and action, just head down to the Lint Cafe on St. Martin's Square and watch a woman wrestling with herself in front of the cake cabinet. Is there a guy in this room who would pay $3 for a macaron? I mean, oh, you would, okay. There's one, okay, he's in the minority, good. Pardon? You're French, well, okay, that explains it. But I mean, a macaron's hardly a bite, is it? Like, your brain knows you've had it, but your stomach would beg to differ, you know. But to a woman, a macaron is a bargain. It feels like a bargain because there's sweet treat with damage limitation built into it. When you're standing there going, oh, how long is it going to take me to work off that chocolate fudge cake on the treadmill? You think, oh, I'll go for this. So value is always a story your customer is telling themselves. It's not what you tell them it is. So our job then isn't to blast our customers with our marketing messages. It's to make them feel like this every day, to make them feel just amazing. So how are we going to get there? Well, I like to say that the old way, the 4 Ps of the marketing mix, is not going to get us there. Because that model was, let's make the products, and then let's find customers for those products. The new way is to actually make things that people want already, to know those people so well that you're making something for them. So the next couple of slides, I could probably spend a month talking to you about these. But actually, I wrote a book for you. So it's my gift to you today, and just thank LinkedIn for giving you the book. So yeah, I'm sure you'll get something from it. But what the most successful businesses of the past decade have done is they've created difference for their customers. I mean, if you think of any business that you admire or that has experienced great growth in the past decade, you'll see that they've used this model. So they recognize the truth about their customers. They understand their customers so well, and they see the opportunities in those truths, and then they take action on them. So instead of using the 4 Ps of the marketing mix, I'd like to suggest that this is what these brands do. The most successful brands use this model, which I call the difference model, and it's the 6 new Ps of marketing. It's all in the book. You need to read the book to understand the whole thing, but I'll take you through some of the companies who've done it. So when you launch a product using that model, here's what happens. You start with the truth about your customers. Then you focus in on those people and say, well, what do they want? You know, what are they connected to? What do they care about? And then you develop an idea around that, which is cleverly what Uber have done. They didn't make a product and just put it out there. They made this product that people actually wanted. And then they launched it into the world. And it turns out when you do it that way, that the marketing is baked into the product. And I think everybody in this room would agree, if you're senior marketers, that you'd like to be involved much more early on in the process, instead of having to come up with the story at the end of the process. So one of the brands that's applied this model really recently, in the past 4 years actually, is Warby Parker. Does anybody know about the US startup Warby Parker? It's a really great story, and it's a really fascinating case study. So these 4 Wharton business graduates discovered that the prescription eyewear industry is a massive oligopoly, $60 billion industry, and dominated by one big player, which is Luxottica. And so what happened is Luxottica owns all these brands like Ray-Ban. There's this illusion of choice, but in actual fact, there is no choice. If you're buying many of the brands that you buy your specs from, you're buying from them. And they also own the insurance companies, and so it goes on, the opticians. So what these guys did, they took the model online. They started selling glasses for $95 a pair, home try-on. So they send you 5 pairs. You try them on at home. Then what do you do when you get these glasses and you try them on at home? You actually upload all your photos to Facebook and go, oh, I'm buying some new glasses. Which ones will I buy? So they've got some marketing baked in there. At $95 a pair, then you send them back. If you don't like them, no worries, just send them back. They also give a pair for every pair that they sell. So Warby Parker has gone from 0 to a $500 million valuation in just 4 years. They've started to open stores in the US, some flagship stores, but predominantly their model is online, appealing to a certain kind of customer. So in the book, there's a tool in the book, and you can download it for free from the website difference.ia. There's a tool called the Difference Map, and this would help you to plan out any marketing for any product. So what they did was recognize the truth about their industry, the market, the truth about their skills, the truth about their customers. They decided why they wanted to do this business, who they were doing it for, how they were going to personalize it, what those people believed, and then and only then did they come up with the product that was going to fit into all of that. Now, people like to say that Warby Parker disrupted the prescription eyewear industry, when in fact, not very much we do disrupts the industry. It actually disrupts people, one person at a time. Apple's changed everything about how we see the world. These businesses are doing similar things on a smaller scale. What the best performing brands over the past decade have proved, that it's whoever is closest to their customer wins. There's a great story from Jeff Bezos, or about Jeff Bezos, is that when, I don't know if you know this story, but when they have a board meeting at Amazon, he actually leaves an empty chair there for the customers. And he said that empty chair symbolizes our customer, and they're the most important person in this room. And I think that's testament to how well Amazon have been doing in the past 10 years. In bringing great products to us in the way that we want them brought to us. Now you're all sitting here, some of you are saying, well, this doesn't apply to me, I'm from a bank, you know, we just sell We just sell average products for average people. We can't differentiate like other. We're not sexy. We don't have a sleek aluminium laptop to sell to people. But I just want to bring you a story about Commonwealth Bank. So anybody here from Commonwealth Bank in the room? Hi guys. You didn't know I was going to say this probably. So about 3 years ago, somebody really smart at Commonwealth Bank went to a guy called Simon Bruce Weston and said, we've got some marketing money here. I think we should do something really good with it. And they built a community for women in business called Women in Focus. Now, in that community, they've grown it. It's taken them time. It's not going to happen in a day. It's not going to be like a banner ad. You're not going to get instant data or instant clicks. They've got 9,000 members in that community, 2,000 of them on LinkedIn. They hold events for women all over the country, 120 events a year, and they're connecting 33,000 women. So it's possible to do it whatever product or service or whatever industry you're in, whatever enterprise. So there's no cop-out for anybody. In a Googleized world, creating difference for our customers is how we're going to succeed. And if you think about every single one of these brands who are up there isn't one of them that isn't about connection, that isn't about remembering to see your customers, that isn't about remembering to create difference for them. If we want to get inside our customers' wallets, it turns out that we need to get inside their heads, and more importantly, their hearts first. It isn't the person with the best idea who wins. It isn't the company with the best idea that wins or the most money. It's the company or the person with the greatest understanding about what matters to people. And that opportunity has never been more open to each and every one of us. Thank you.